We'll call the meeting to order. She'll bring the copies back in for the people that didn't get them. First order of business is the minutes from our July 10th meeting. Make a motion to pass those minutes, please.
So moved.
Second.
I'll second.
Anybody have any discussion about them? Nope. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? No. Approved. Next item, it's going to be a short kind of meeting that's not normal because of our big topic that we have discussed with Burksdale. So we're going to be skipping through or skipping over some of the normal areas of business that we handle in our meetings. First, we appreciate everybody being here. First order of business, Mary, we had a special meeting to go over our capital budget recommendations, which expenditures that we'll be going over here shortly. During that meeting, I don't know if you all know or not, but we have a subcommittee for Brittany, which is made up of Mary, Dean, and Susan, and they came up with some ideas that we passed at that meeting and would like to recap those so everybody understands what they're doing at Brittany. Mary?
Basically, what we've done is we've gone out and we've placed gold tee markers. We've marked them right now with flags on the course to accommodate some of our older players, like we have on the rest of the courses. And the other thing we've done is we've set up tee markers to make it a par 3 course. So you will have the choice to play it as an executive 9 or a par 3 9. And that's been approved. We're in the process of getting the work done. Keith we're going to probably use like a teal colored marker on not only the cart path, but in the ground to mark the par 3 course as opposed to the other ones. So that should be coming about. Hopefully we'll get that done within the very, very near future.
Great, thank you. The other topic before we get into Burksdale is we need to approve our capital expenditure recommendations. I will go over them real quick, just highlight. The first one is to build gold tee boxes with a focus on Highlands and Dogwood to start, and continue to do a couple courses the following year and the following year until all courses are done. The second one is a additional roller for green roller for Scottsdale. This will enable the maintenance crew up there to continue to provide smoother surfaces and consistent green speeds especially during shotgun days. Leveling tee boxes. One of the ideas there is to again pick a course or two to do this next year, and then continue to year after year do a couple courses at a time. I actually have the old list in front of me. Made some adjustments. Where is it? Did I skip it? Oh, there it is. Sorry. Yes, there we go. Spot repair, some cart paths that were not addressed last year, and really those are the extreme spots on the cart paths with asphalt, and then also there's some holes and things that as we move down to regular budget or regular maintenance items, some washout areas that need to be done. Let's see, did that one. The root cutter machine, we rented one, what was that, last year, Keith? 2 years ago. It was very effective. We put that at the bottom of the list to get by. Maybe we can get by if we need it again, just to rent one until some money eases up and we can adjust some other top things, get those more important up top. And then the last one is replace the fairway grass with Latitude or a similar new breed of grass at Highlands. We know there'll be course closures and an expensive endeavor, but we wanted to get it on the list for recommendations. So, based off the 6 that we have, make a motion to pass those.
So moved.
Any discussion on those? Further discussion? Susan?
So we have really 3 things on here that are fairly expensive: the building of the gold tee boxes, the leveling, and the fairway grass. okay? And I would just recommend that if that, and they're on there with kind of a modest expectation they might be approved. okay?
Absolutely.
So if we do get that approved, I think it would be wise if we had an opportunity to relook at priorities to make sure that, you know, the tee boxes are really, really the thing that we want to do. If we only had $300,000 to spend and close a course for the season, is that really, really the thing we want to do most? And I know that was because after the meeting, I was reflecting on the value of new grass on the fairway as opposed to new tee boxes. And, you know, from a priority standpoint, if we only had that kind of money, the grass, in my mind, may win. Okay, but again, it's a fairly unlikely
big
occurrence
ask.
that we'll be discussing
It's
this.
a big ask.
But right now you have it listed as your 6th.
Right.
So we just want to make sure that we're clear from the management point of view that what your recommendation of priority, that everybody's that at least the majority is in agreement on what needs to be done.
We readjusted our priority list based off of, I don't know how to say it, financial expectations, I guess is maybe the right way to say it. Again, to Susan's point, if $300,000 is available in the budget, then that would change some of this, if that makes sense.
Makes total sense. Enough said.
Okay.
If you do that, though, you're gonna keep pushing it down and down and down, and you're never gonna have gold tee boxes.
That may be,
I,
but we would, but
I
that would
agree
be.
100%.
I think, I don't know what you're talking apples and apples, are we? Can you replace the grass on all the fairways in a golf course for the same price that you can build a dozen tee boxes?
I haven't done the numbers, so I can't give you an exact, but my guess is it would be cheaper to.
I think it'd be a lot cheaper to do a tee box, and I've got the course architect right here, but I think it would be considerably cheaper.
Microphones, please. Microphones.
We built 2 tees 2 years ago at Scottsdale, and we had the fill material there, so we didn't have any expense for materials other than grass, and those were about $10,000 a piece.
Really? For the 10,000 apiece? That surprised me.
And my thought also really has to do with, you know, that if we have to close a whole course for a season to do tee boxes, and we have to close the whole course for a season to do grass, right, as opposed to doing tee boxes in a few weeks or a month. So I think there are a lot of different considerations in there.
Tee boxes need level.
Right, and the other thing about the grass, it's not just because the new grass is prettier, it's also because it comes out about a month earlier in the spring and stays green a month later in the year. So you have a much better playing surface in the times that we tend to get quite a few complaints from the golfers. So I just wanted to bring that up as a point,
Keith,
because we kind of threw it.
how long do you think it takes to build a tee box? Since you did those out at Scottsdale, how long does it take to do a tee box?
The contractor took about 10 days to build one of them.
One of them?
That's provided we have all the materials and everything there ready to go once they're staged.
Okay.
The real issue, I think, is just how much money we're gonna get, the decision on what priority we do and what we build is gonna be up to the golf committee once we get a decision on how much funds are available. So, I mean, we can have this discussion again at any time, but we need to find out how much we're gonna have to work with. I mean, that's the normal budget process.
Right.
Would be you find out how much money you got and what are you gonna do with it, not what are you gonna do with it, then, oh, by the way, here's how much you got. So we, you know, we're kind of got the cart before the horse here on prioritizing our what we're gonna do. We won't know what we're gonna do until after we get the amount of money we have to do it with.
But I'd like to make one statement. These gold tee boxes keep getting pushed back every year. It's been 6 years when we started this program, and it's time to build tee boxes.
Do we want to vote as they are? Do we want to change the motion? Nope. It's been seconded, right? All in favor? All opposed? we'll circle back around on that when we get down the road, but that's where we are. Next item is the Burksdale Bridge and course, and we have a couple guests. Keith?
Yes, when I was asked to come up with some scenarios and cost on repairing, replacing of the bridge over there, I contacted Craft and Toll, an engineering firm, which we've done some work with here before. They had a history of working on bridges here before. They'd actually done a little bit of work on some of these exact bridges we're talking about. So I asked Chuck Whiff, who is to my left, to come and answer any of your specific questions, because he actually, I think I'm speaking in turn, bridges are one of your strengths in the engineering, I believe. Is that correct? Yeah. Okay.
Welcome, Chuck. Darrell?
And we brought Gavin in, PGA Pro over at Kingswood Burksdale. I think it's important he's here to be in on the discussion. Welcome, Gavin.
Hey, Gavin. Open discussion on this. A couple things. There were 39 total responses to the email address that we set up. Of those responses, 17 responses were keep it open, 11 were closed, and they were, I should also say that it was a mixture of the golfing community and non-golfing community in every one of these categories. So 17 open, 11 closed, and 11 had no opinion and basically asked additional questions. So there wasn't a keep it open or close it. So fairly spread across the board, which was interesting. What I would like to see or to look at in extending kind of really the decision-making process, but let's see, would it be possible for us to make it a 6-hole course or redesign some holes to make a 9-hole course? Obviously, we would need architectural work, architects to look at that. We would need to look at safety issues. I know the big hill on number 2, if the carts can go up it, if people meet, some different things. So one of the things that I would like to discuss and talk about is maybe look at that as an option as well. The expenditure of it, a heck of a lot cheaper, I think, than either replacing, removing, or redoing a bridge, but that might be something to look at as well. So open it up for discussion. Yeah, go ahead.
A question for Chuck. The option about the repair of the bridge, okay, which is to, basically fix what is there right now. My question really is, how much risk is there that repair doesn't hold over the long term, right? That there's something else that happens to that bridge?
Yeah, that's a good question. If you just repair the bridge as it's estimated there, you will still have steel piling in the creek. It'll still be built up debris. It'll still be a maintenance problem. The repair estimate doesn't do anything but replace those 3 spans that are affected. It doesn't repair the other spans, and those piling, that are in there now are susceptible to getting bent, as shown in the pictures.
I want to jump in real quick. With what Jason said there, making it a 6-hole course, making a 9-hole course and rerouting it. There's some stuff I just jotted down once you said it we all need to be aware of, and I kind of like that idea. There'll be some merit behind it. It has crossed our mind. I'm just going to throw it out there. One of them is hole number 2. Driving down there, we've had wrecks on that multiple times. So if we're all going to look into that, I need some time to get out with a safety coordinator, look at it. Gavin can justify when it's rainy that road is real slippery going down. My concern is I know our carts can get up it, Jason, but a private cart, if someone has a private cart of age, if it's a gas powered or something, if it gets halfway up and quits or something on us, then who's liable? There's a lot of safety. That's my number one. Since you announced, I need time to look at it if we had to do it. And if it's only a one-way traffic way, we've got to figure out some way of a light up top and light down the bottom saying you can come down, you can go up, because That'll be crazy. Just a quick design of it. It is possible if you finish on number 9 to get all the way back. It's a long ride in a golf cart, scenic ride along the river. You go across it, then you could go down and go up. My concern, and David would be able to help us on this, is number 1. Because if you're driving back to the clubhouse on number 1 on the cart path, you're gonna have people blasting tees and tee box balls into your face. So we gotta look at that as well. Maybe David and I could get together and have a look and see about a bit of redesign or something like that. Maybe putting a par 3 on hole number 2 or even number 1, something like that. But I think it's got merit behind it, but we needed some time to investigate, Jason.
Sure, fair enough. Yeah,
We have the same problem with driving back against the grain on 2 other courses for 9-hole, groups that go out, Kingswood and Dogwood, both have the same issue, so I'm not sure if we had any issues with that, but I don't see it to be that big of an issue, but it's good to look at it, but.
Chuck, for our guests here, could you give us a brief pro and con on repair versus replace? Maybe give the pros and cons on repair and the pros and cons on replace?
Sure. I can, just in brief, I would recommend replacing it with a single span because we've looked at this bridge for quite a while. We've been called and asked to look at it. And the big problem is that it catches debris because of all the steel piling that's exposed in the creek. So that's one of the reasons that we recommend replacing it with a single span so that it doesn't have any of those steel piles in the creek. It's worked well at Kingswood 18. It's worked well at Country Club number 2. So that's a big pro in my opinion.
Am I correct in saying that, and please correct me if I'm wrong, that you made it so that the span was long enough to get you away from the edge of the stream bank so that you wouldn't have scouring and go and have it scour behind where it lands on the shore?
I can't guarantee that away from the bridge it won't scour because Mother Nature's powerful. Water's not something that you
But
should really
you're not
mess
going
with.
edge to edge. You're actually
That's correct.
You're,
The
you're actually
bridge-
going
yeah,
in
that's
a
correct.
little ways.
I understand your question
I
now.
probably didn't ask it correctly the first time.
We didn't just set it right on the edge. We
Right.
allowed the bridge to be a little longer, and then we usually protect the end slopes with either dumped riprap or grouted riprap.
Would it raise the clearance off the water anymore? How much higher would it have it off the water?
I think it'll raise the clearance. I think it'll raise the clearance a little bit. Right now, that structural depth, those precast units are 1'5", so it's a pretty shallow
Yeah, that's-
bridge. I'm not sure. It'd be pretty close to the same. It may raise it a little bit, but we usually size something like that during the hydraulic analysis to see where we need to put that low chord. If we need to raise it because the hydraulics say raise it, that's what we do. If it's fine, we can just match existing. That's usually what we do. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
I received a couple emails where people were concerned that we had not gone out and gotten 3 bids, because this is really an estimate. To truly get, to get a bid, to get a hard number, you'd have to have stamped engineering drawings, go out to a contractor, have them bid it out. So can you describe how you derived your estimate and how often are you accurate on your estimates?
Sure. The usual process is, during the concept phase, we don't have any plans. We just provide estimates based on past projects like the Kingswood 18, the Country Club number 2 project. So that's what the estimate's based off of for replacement. And then as far as how accurate are they, unfortunately, the only thing you know about an estimate is that it's wrong. It's either too high or too low, and the contractors will tell you how it came in. We usually try to get to within 10%, but there's a lot of factors involved with that. So no, there's not a set of plans yet. This is all just concept. It's all preliminary. It's subject to change. but it is based on 2 projects that we have done for the POA.
And on the time frame that is written, a lot of that is not necessarily the construction, right? A lot of that is permitting, because we got to deal with government agencies, obviously, for permits. So
That's correct.
That's
My
been a big
apologies
question,
to
too.
anybody in a government agency or who's worked with them, but yeah, it usually takes a while for the permitting.
Gotcha.
I have a quick question, if I might. Does any of this have to do with the capacity of that bridge with our emergency access to either side of that? Because I know we have emergency access out there. We have to be able to get an ambulance or something out there. Does any of that have to do, that bridge have to do with that?
The estimate, I think I provided 3 estimates. One was remove, one was repair, and one was replace. And then I provided another one for golf carts only. The one for replace, if it's a legal load that can go over the highway just without a special permit, it can go across that bridge. And the reason we did that is on Kingswood 18 and Country Club number 2, we get calls that say, hey, can we drive this construction vehicle over this? Or can we drive, can we drive emergency vehicles over this? And our answer is always yes, because that's how we designed it. The 4th estimate is for golf carts only, so it's narrower and it doesn't have as, it's not as robust. It's not as strong as the other bridge.
But we discussed in our last meeting that the emergency requirement wasn't an issue anymore, didn't we?
Yeah, Keith, I think was going to address
I
that.
just need to clarify something when he's talking numbers. Remember, we flipped the 9 since he was here. So the bridge he's talking about, construction equipment going across, is not currently number 2, the narrow one. It's the big one that is 11. Those are the 2 bridges he's actually talking about in today's numbering system, which would make a difference, because I can think you're sitting there going, how are you going to drive a construction deal across that real narrow cart-only bridge? Just to clarify.
But to answer the question is that the emergency requirements have changed. Those date back a long way. I had a conversation with Chief Sims regarding this.
So in fact, we need to build a bridge to be able to handle golf carts, not emergency vehicles.
You could, that's why he gave us options.
Yeah.
So you could build a bridge that is a cart only, and I think that was it's in here, $500 and something thousand. Or you could make a wider bridge that would take not only emergency vehicles, but also Keith's equipment, and that's more, it's 600,000, something of that nature. I'm not off the top of my head. But we're not required to have an emergency access
Right.
bridge, because they can get access from other locations.
Right.
Any more questions from the committee? Comments?
Well, I have other thoughts, but I think it would be prudent to get feedback
Yep, okay,
before,
fair.
as
Yep.
opposed to a direct question.
Yep, fair. We'll open it up to our awesome members that are here. Please remember, please try to keep it to 3 minutes. I know there's a lot of you that will probably want to speak, and I want to have dinner on time tonight. So if you could keep it to 3 minutes, we'd appreciate it. Yes, go ahead. Just please step up to the mic.
I just want to ask, if you open that bridge so that the debris does not catch there, what's the next bridge it's going to catch on?
Good question.
Is it going to catch on another bridge at Kingswood, like number 8? Maybe that one?
Keith, can you do that
question.
one? Keith?
Good question, thank you.
Keith, can you cover that?
Yes, it will catch on the bridge on 8, because that is a low bridge, the same kind of bridge. And then I think you're pretty good the rest of the way down after that.
Okay, it doesn't seem feasible for scenario 4, because the trees still flow down and they would hit whatever pilings you have saved. So what we really need is the steel bridge. And I realize it's $120,000 more, but I've seen you guys do so much repair on the other courses other than Burksdale. You've spent thousands of dollars at Scottsdale, and you've spent quite a bit at Highlands, but if you'll notice, every time there is a flood, the people that work at Burksdale are able to clean it up and make it playable very quickly. And Burksdale is one of the best courses that you have. We've already lost 9 holes, but there's still 9 holes left. And it's a perfect 9-hole course. It has 3 3-pars, 3 4-pars, and 3 5-pars. And the people that play it love it. And I don't know why there aren't more people here today to fight for Burksdale, because we need the steel bridge, and we need to keep Burksdale open. It's a lovely course. I love the course, and I wish everyone would come and fight for it, because it's one of the best courses you have.
Thank you.
First, let me say, I don't believe this is all about Burksdale Golf Course or about golf itself. We were told 2 or 3 years ago that if Burksdale ever floods again, that the rest of Burksdale will close. And I understand that from the hydrology study. However, if you close it because of a flood, and it didn't flood, the water did the damage. If you do close it, we've got to do something with that land. So you're going to have to build a bridge one way or another. And it needs to be able to hold maintenance equipment, because we're going to maintain that property. So I don't believe it's about just the Burksdale Golf Course or even just about golf. I'm not even sure that it belongs in this committee. If and when Burksdale does get flooded, we will need to do something with that land. At that point, we'll still need the bridge. That would require scenario number 2, the span bridge, the most expensive one, so we can get the maintenance equipment over there. If we turn that into a park, they're going to want to have events there. You'll need to have a way to get big trucks out there. Personally, I'd hate to see the remaining 9 holes at Burksdale closed, but understand the findings of the hydrology study. Burksdale is the flattest course and easiest course for our older folks, especially to manage physically. That's why it needs to stay open as long as it's feasible, and that's until it floods again. I do believe that we could get along fine without Burksdale, but for now, it's a great course, especially for older people that have physical limitations. At some point, I believe the intent is to close Country Club for about a year or year and a half to do work along the creek to mitigate future flooding there. At that point, it would really be nice to have the 9 holes at Burksdale. Another thing you could think about, I know one of the things I hear is Burksdale, nobody uses Burksdale. Well, we could use Burksdale. Take week 1, you play Burksdale's a 9-hole course, Kingswood's an 18-hole course. Week 2, Burksdale, the 9 at Burksdale, followed by the front 9 at Kingswood. Week 3, the back 9 at Kingswood, followed by the front 9 at Kingswood. And if you really want to get, and you can do it, you can just rotate how we use it, and we'd have 3 different courses instead of one 18-hole course. And so anyway, let me again reiterate, I don't believe Burksdale Bridge is a golf issue. We need the bridge to be able to maintain the land, whether it's a golf course, a park, or whatever. Thank you.
All right, thank you. I would, to your point, I do want to say, and again, it kind of parallels Brittany as the rumor mill gets going and people get on social media. I will say again, as we said with Brittany, and I can say this with great pride, we left Brittany open. No decision has been made. That's why this conversation is happening. And I want everybody to understand that, and please, everybody believe that as well. I think the golf committee did a great job, as the community did with Brittany, and we said all along there was no decision made. And I know I personally caught a lot of flack, but there wasn't a decision made till the final. So I just want everybody to understand this is the same situation with Burkesdale. That's why we're talking, okay? Thank you, and thank you for your comments. Yes, sir.
Okay, I'm Roger Scholes. I've lived here 26 years. My first introduction to Bella Vista was back in the 80s, coming in from the south, and the first thing I seen was the Burkesdale Golf Course, Kingswood, Country Club. It was a great place, great way to show off the Bella Vista city. I know there was some discussion about Brittany, and you decided to keep Brittany open. Well, I'm here to say that Burkesdale would provide at least 3 times the revenue that Brittany ever will. And if you consider the additional pro shop sales, maybe more than that. Now, I understand the negative is the flood, but the greens for the 9 holes, the greens and tee boxes are above flood. When the water stops, the next day the water goes down. The next day they take the debris off the fairways, and you're back in business again. Now, it's a very popular course. I used to see men come in after work, walking the course. And it's a very popular 9-hole course for the 9-hole golfers, and men and ladies. I understand when they asked them to go to Brittany, they went once and said they didn't like that, didn't want to do that again.
You're correct.
So I'm hoping we fix the bridge and open Burkesdale and make the golfers very happy. Thank you.
Thank you, Roger. It's interesting you say that, Roger, because I can remember as a young lad back in the 70s, we lived in Kansas at the time, and we drove to Little Rock, and I can remember waking up, because that was about the time I got up from my nap, and I'd yell 4 out the window and just make every golfer mad. So I remember that, too. True story. I still do. No, I don't do it. No, I don't. But that is a true story. So, yeah, it definitely, and that's one of the reasons my parents moved here back in the 80s, in 1980, was obviously being a golfing family. That was a major reason why we moved here, too. So good thoughts. Thank you. Anyone else? Good. Yes, please.
This is the same thing that's already been addressed, but I think the decision about this bridge for a golf course is very short term. The land is eventually going to be used some way, whether it's for a golf course or not. And I agree that there would have to be a bridge or access provided. So it's a cost that we're going to have to incur at some point. So I think we need to look farther ahead in this commitment. And if we do it for a golf course now and it floods later, the land will be accessible for other events
Purposes.
or things, parks or whatever it ends up being.
Okay. Thank you. Is that everybody?
I just have one.
Yes, ma'am.
Sorry.
It's okay.
I just have one more thing to add, is that our 9-hole women that have been going to Brittany, the first day out at Brittany, we had 60 people. We now average about 30. So it's impacted our league greatly. A lot of the elderly women can't do the hills, and especially with the heat now, and a later tee time that we have. So I just wanted to point that out.
Thank you.
I do have one question. I've got a question too. Go ahead.
Yes, ma'am.
Does your cost for the bridge include the cost that we'll have to pay for the permits from the Corps of Engineers and the state? So your estimate includes that? Is
Yes,
that
ma'am.
right? Thank you.
I probably have an ignorant question because I haven't been in the area all that long. Is the problem that we can't afford the bridge, or is the problem that we don't have enough golf to keep sustaining the budget, if I may ask? Both?
Yeah,
No.
we got a couple from from a financial point of view, because of all our reserves were used to put out the Trafalgar fire, you know, this is a very difficult decision to make. Our funds are extremely limited at this point. With regards to flooding, we brought in Burns McDonald, and they did a flood study along Little Sugar Creek, and their analysis was that the flooding is going to continue to increase in frequency and intensity. You know, we just need to be aware that it's going to continue to get worse as upstream continues to get urbanized.
Okay, with that, are there other alternatives for financing the bridge? I mean, we seem to be Northwest Arkansas seems to be very community spirited or whatever. I mean, this isn't even a show, you know, we have bike trails and we have everything else and it's very recreational. Have we looked into asking some of our friends upstream who send us their water if we might be able to get a little financing on a bridge, or that they would be willing to build a bridge? In some respects, this is a rounding error for a lot of these people. So, I mean, I don't understand why we're here beating ourselves to death. I mean, everything the gentleman said about this is a great selling point when you come into the community. It can't be a surprise it's gonna flood. It's gonna flood, but it seems to me that a $500,000 or $600,000 bridge should not stop us from keeping the community viable the way it is. And again, we have a lot of viable businesses and communities around here. Have we sought anyone else's help? That's my question.
Good point. Good question.
Sure.
We can put you in charge of the committee.
You can be in charge of that committee if you'd like to be.
Discuss it. I mean, it just seems like we have a very viable, you know, atmosphere around here. Bella Vista is very much a part of that. And whether our golfing is declining or, you know, the population is changing, my thing is, okay, if our population is changing, maybe we should be doing more with youth golf. Maybe we should be encouraging companies to get down here to play golf leagues or whatever the case may be. It seems to me that we have a vibrant area that restoring this bridge and keeping that course open should not be an issue. And I hate to see us hung out to dry because of the fire situation. I mean, that's a community situation too. I just think there's people in the area that might come to our aid.
And I'm gonna.
Yes, I'd be happy to work with you.
And I want to jump on just one statement you made, and I don't think you meant it in any derogatory manner, but you threw out about junior golf, and we have Gavin here and we have Daryl here, and I don't think everybody is fully aware of how much these two gentlemen have grown junior golf and how much they do to expand that. We are. Over the last few years, we have grown that by 2, 3, 4-fold. So that came up at the Brittany meeting, and I just want to make sure that we give credit where credit due. Is these
Amen.
two gentlemen have worked very hard. In addition to Alex has been involved, and Hillary has been involved, and a lot of our other employees. They've really come a long way in growing junior golf in our community. So just want to recognize that.
Absolutely.
This course seems to lend itself to junior golf, to me, and a lot of things you could do, so.
It does.
I'd just like to see it remain viable.
Good.
Tom, I think we ought to start a Save the Bridge campaign in the neighborhood. Something can be done if those of us who raise money for golf tournaments, we can hit some big industries, big merchants around town. I think we could get some money to build this bridge and not out of our pockets.
I think that would be a significant undertaking. I think you'd have to have a large number of tournaments. You know, a lot of the tournaments, you know, the APT tournament, which is the best tournament I've ever seen run, they bring in 25 grand, which is distributed between charities. So even if you were able to talk APT, and I wouldn't want to speak for them, you were able to have 100% of those funds dedicated to the bridge, that's $25,000. It's a lot of money, but it's not a lot of money when you're talking about bridges. I think that, you know, there are a lot of big corporate players in the area, but they get knocks on the door consistently from charities, and I think that hospitals are going to carry a little bit more weight over a golf course bridge. Just to be 100% frank.
Yeah, Phil, it's a good idea. It actually came up a while back. Someone was asking me about that. And we average on our fundraisers between the rally to prostate cancer to them, we do about 7 to 8 to 9,000 per event is what we do with our local community. So if you're talking a $600,000 bridge, it's a lot of tournaments, and you're gonna have to cut those back. And like Tom said, the charity raised $2.1 million for the Children's Hospital, but there's big players in that, and it goes to that cause. But it's something we could look at for sure.
Anybody else? Yes, sir? Well, if you can come up with anything better than our friends upstream, I'll buy you a drink, because that was pretty good.
You're in, big boy. We've looked at and talked about junior golf, and we've talked about the seniors, God bless them. I am one. I know I don't look like it, but I'm not looking at you, trust me. The one thing, see, don't get smart. I'll blow your eardrums out. Yeah, that was my paycheck. Thank you. One of the things we really haven't discussed is the fact that Top Golf is coming in here, and they're gonna be here at the middle of next year. I think they're gonna be open wide. Daryl and I have had this conversation previously, and I'd like to bring it out and kind of put it a little bit more of a public venue here. There's gonna be a lot of people that are gonna go down there, and for the first time in their life, they're gonna have a golf club in their hands. And they're gonna start swinging at this thing, flailing away, trying to put it into a round circle on a football field. And they're gonna do it from ground level, they're gonna do it from one level up, I believe, is gonna be the size of the one that's gonna be down in Bentonville. Now, that brings up a real problem, because those people are gonna wanna play golf somewhere. Ding, 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 ding. They're not gonna wanna play Brittany. Quite frankly, I don't want them to try to play Brittany, because there are homeowners there that are gonna feel as though they're in the Mekong Delta getting bombed. But I do want them to have something to do like Burksdale, where there is room to spray a shot. Yeah, there's water, they're gonna lose some, well, to give them a little bit of a lesson. But we can address that by giving people an opportunity to play at a reduced rate, and I know our rates are pretty low now. But we can tie that into some method at Top Golf where these people go there and they take lessons, or they have some type of an event down there. And they also get an inkling, hey, Burksdale's up here. This is a place where I can go play, I can drive a cart, I can try to be nice when I'm going down the hill on number 2, and not just pretend it's a ski slope. But it's also going to have an opportunity where they're going to be able to see our golf shop. They're going to be able to see Gavin's smiling face. Smile. Thank you. And we're going to be able to do something that's going to take the non-golfing generation, I want to call it, because let's face it, kids, we're all kind of up there in age, and we're also the ones that have put golf where it is now. And we now need to pay it forward, and we need to keep golf where it's gonna grow. Go after the people that don't have a place to play. And these are the people that are gonna go to anywhere to buy a set of golf clubs. And I'm talking about auctions, I'm talking about garage sales and things like that, because they need the implements of destruction to continue to play. But they also need a place to play. Don't give it away.
Yeah. Well put. Anybody else?
Okay, so I'm going to be the black hat in the room, as usual, okay? Because at some point, I think it's really important that we make sure we look at this from not an emotional standpoint, not as a sometimes down the road standpoint, but where we really are today in our golf business. And I don't see this as a decision as much about what kind of bridge we put in as whether or not we need that course at all in our golf business. And and what we're seeing is people already are moving from Burksdale to the other courses, and they're not moving to Brittany. They're moving to the other courses, and you can see it in the rounds at Brittany, okay? With Margot, and I'm very familiar with what's happening at the 9-hole, there is a risk, and I think it's the 9-hole ladies, the 9-hole men. The question is, where do those groups go? And if we're positioned at Brittany, I expect we will lose at least half of the players in our clubs, and plus they pay half it's a 40% less revenue at Brittany than it was at Burksdale. Okay, so we kind of get the double whammy there. So I think there will be some loss of rounds if Burksdale closes. But I think the worst case is probably a 50% loss, which is about $112,000. Okay. If we, okay, so from a from a rounds and revenue standpoint, we've had a 5% decrease in rounds consistently for the last 10 years. And so we're off 31% from 2010. And it's both in the number of players and the number of rounds. So the golf business it's in a declining mode. And unfortunately with golf, the costs are a step cost. You either have it or you don't. You can't you can only cut down payroll so much or cut down supply so much. But if it's there, it costs you. And with the golf study that we did at Country Club, we asked how many golf courses do we need for the foreseeable future, and I believe the answer was 4 is the recommended amount, 5 is a luxury. And so if Burksdale closes, then we're at 5, okay? Now, does that pose some problems if something has to close? Yeah, it's going to get a little tighter, but that's what it is. The other thing is, just from the choices, doing a repair I think is a very short term and generally a waste of money. Even the cart only, for $120,000 difference to have the flexibility to drive equipment across that bridge and do whatever you want and have the answer always be yes, you can use it, to, well, I don't know, let me check, how heavy is your equipment, and is it too wide, and all that. For $120,000 in the scope of the POA's budget, it's for a long-term project like this is really not terribly material. But the other thing we need to consider is if we do build the bridge, what are other things on that golf course that we've pretty much ignored for the last 5 years that really should be done? If we're going to spend $600,000 on a bridge, are we okay with the cart paths deteriorating in the spots that they are? Because we didn't do anything with those cart paths over the last few years. We know the irrigation system is, let's say old, really old, okay? And in Keith's budget, he has money there, and that's consistent with what they use to maintain the irrigation system, correct? But if there's something that significantly goes wrong, that's money that has to be invested and spent for that to be viable. The other thing is there's a bridge that's coming down off of between 1 and 2, and that bridge is the older kind, and it's also at risk. I mean, it's an old bridge, and it's at risk. So what happens when that one goes out? So I would just hate to see us spend, and by the time you have the course closed for 1.5 years without any revenue coming in, right? It's not a $620,000 bill. It's really an $800,000 bill because we won't have saved the money before, okay? And so you have all these continued risks. And the last point I want to make is what's the opportunity cost? If we were sitting here with a POA with a $10 million reserve, it would be a little different scenario, okay? Yes, the Trafalgar fire kind of skimmed off a portion of our reserves, but the reality is we spent a lot of the reserves. We spent 10 years saving. And we did it, and I look back, and I wouldn't give up a single project we did, okay? But the reality is if you had $800,000 to spend in golf, just assume that money would go to golf. Wouldn't there be other things we would spend it on? Wouldn't we spend it on gold tee boxes and leveling tee boxes and making our grass so our courses are current? Because even though we don't think they're dated, because we're used to playing them all the time, when people come in and look at our courses, even though they're beautiful, they are falling behind what the standard is in the industry. And so I just wanted to kind of, and then the other one is, of course, I have to throw a little bit in about non-golf things. Sorry, I get to talk. And that is...
More than 3 minutes?
Yes, because she's a
Yes.
committee member.
Okay, and the last point I want to make is that, I'm a golf person. I love golf. I'm passionate about golf. We moved here because of the golf, but we do other things, and so do many of our neighbors. And are any of those amenities underfunded because of the relative amount that we spend in golf? Okay, so it's just a lot of money on the hope that we get something from Topgolf, who, by the way, will view us as competition, not as a cooperative venture, right? Or that we hope that suddenly our trend will turn, even though there's no evidence that it will. So anyway, that's my pitch on that. Maybe that's not the best use of our money.
Thanks, Susan. Tom?
Susan, can I ask you a question? You very effectively pointed out each of the...
Mike, on the mic, please.
Sure. You very effectively pointed out each of the situations that we do face currently in our golf programs. The old sewage systems. I don't know if there are any newer on the other courses in the area on Birchdale. I don't know, and I don't really care at this point. But you have effectively pointed out the deficiencies and what we're faced with today. My question to you is, do you have an overall solution to remedy that? And if you do, what is it?
Well, I don't have a solution to remedy, but except to not spend that money on the Birchdale Bridge and the Birchdale Golf Course. I would rather see us, I think it's important that we remove, if we don't build a bridge, I think we should remove the one that's there.
Then Tom Judson, can I ask a question? It's kind of I want to mention the elephant in the room, okay? We have all these financial situations. We have things that we need to do. Is there some relief in the future, say through, if we get an assessment increase, does that change the picture somewhat overall?
Yes.
Certainly would, wouldn't it?
But with that being said,
yeah,
management has not given any recommendation regarding this situation. We want the golf committee to make their recommendation to the board without any influence from management.
Understand.
They've asked us for information, which we have provided, but we want the committee to make the decision, their recommendation on their own.
It's just that obvious to me as you listen to the situation from a business perspective, financial consideration. I mean, yeah, the reserves are gone, but we've done I think we've done some wonderful things with the reserves that sat for 20 years. So, the people that didn't want an assessment 20 years ago because we had the reserves, some of the same people don't want it now because the reserves are gone. So you can't have both. You got to run a business. You need income. If you're going to spend money on bridges and castles and so on.
The financial dynamic changes with an assessment increase.
Cool.
It
Thank
does.
you.
Thanks, Tom.
Mine's real quick. Can we reuse bridges that we aren't using? You can't use those at all. That didn't say.
I think,
Well, you can, but they have to be exact size. Ask the engineer. I'm not an armchair. I will never claim to be an armchair engineer, so go right ahead. Yeah. Yes, Mr. Bruce.
My name is Bruce Portello, and I do live in the Highlands. I would ask that all of us please don't underestimate the weather. A cubic yard of water weighs 1,700 pounds. And we're going to get a big flood. Maybe not soon, but sooner or later, we will get the big flood. And we've all seen what it can do. And whilst there are those people that would like to keep Burksdale open, I would side with Susan Nuttall on the financial side. I just don't see that happening. And remember, too, that upstream from Sugar Creek, you've got continued tremendous expansion. It's all cement and concrete. And when it rains, it all comes our way. And it can be and has been very damaging. So I just ask that you consider that, because it'll come.
Thanks, Bruce.
I just want to make one more observation. A while back, we went on the walk for the new bike trail that's up along the Burksdale, on the other side of the creek there. And I'll tell you, from that vantage point, you get a whole different view of the size of that stream, because it looks really nice when you're golfing, and there is probably 4 times more space that you never see back there. That when we get water, the amount of water that comes through is astounding. And then also the same applies as Sugar Creek goes down by Kingswood, that we see the nice little river there. Well, there's probably, again, 4 or 5 times more water that flows when there's a flood. There's a lot of water that comes that we don't really think of until the one day it rains.
Keith, I believe there's been some reports on that number 8 bridge. I'd just like to see, you know, if we fix the ones in Burksdale, what kind of, reports are done on that bridge? Is it gonna sustain the next flood, or?
You asking about 8 Kingswood?
Yeah, number 8 on Kingswood. That's what, I
That's
mean,
anybody's guess, but it's got pilings in the river, and as long as there's pilings in the river and things hit those pilings and they're old, there's a risk that that bridge could go before the one on 18 would totally go down, maybe. You don't know.
That's-
Yeah. Question. Okay, as a committee, I think we need to table this a little bit and continue our conversations and get more information. One, for looking at maybe expanding, temporarily making a 6 or 9 hole course until we get some more information. Daryl, I know you're gonna head that, I'm assuming, with Mr. Waltz and everybody, and safety and all your.
Yeah,
your
I'll
team.
take that on, and I'll be reaching out to David, Keith, and our safety coordinator within the POA, and we'll go out there and have a look at that. Safety first for anybody that's driving up and down 1 and 2 is what we're gonna look at, and the routing.
Yes, Keith.
Can you, if there's any more questions for Chuck, I'd like you to ask them, because I'd like to let him go ahead and
Yep.
go home if you had any specifics for him. Actually, we're not. He may start charging though the second hour. Thank you for coming, Chuck.
Chuck, thank you for coming. We appreciate your time. Yes, Mary.
Is there any possible way that we could get 3 estimates, even without the architectural drawings? I don't want to put the expense on and then not use it, but only having the one estimate.
Okay,
as
so
far as-
this, Chuck, correct me if I say anything incorrect, okay? So based upon his historical references of what other work has been done is how he's calculating that estimate. And he said earlier that he's usually within plus or minus 10%, which is pretty good, at least in my opinion. In order to get 3 bids, in order to have a bid, you have to have architectural drawings. Well, architectural drawings are going to be expensive. And the other thing is you have to pick a route. I don't want to pay Chuck $30,000 for architectural drawings for a repair, and then have to do architectural drawings for replace. So you have to pick a route, and then you have to pick $30,000, and what happens, you know, I don't think, let's say Chuck is way off base, and he's off by 20%, okay? It's still really not gonna change your decision-making, okay? So it costs $240 to repair the bridge instead of $280. Does that change your opinion? Does that change your decision? Let's say it costs $400,000 instead of $500,000 for a single lane cart bridge. Does that change your decision-making? I don't think it really does. We've used Chuck many times in the past. He hasn't let us down. I feel plus or minus 10% is pretty good. Now, if we decide to move forward and we decide one route or the other, we are absolutely going to get multiple bids. And we will do our best to get them go down. If we go down and replace the bridge or repair, we will get the best value we can for our dollar, because we do that all the time. We always get 3 bids, and we always try and get creative. But I would say, does it really change the math of the decision, whether it's 240 or 280 to replace, or 400,000 or 500,000 to replace? In my opinion, it doesn't change the decision-making. Okay? Did I say anything wrong?
If you did, he was gonna say he didn't care, 'cause the man's thirsty, it's after 5 o'clock. Thanks, Chuck, we appreciate you, man. So do we agree to, I guess, table it at least until, for a month or however long it's gonna take for Darrell to get his?
When do we have to have a decision to take to the board?
Technically, even if we made a decision today, nothing's gonna start for a while, so.
I can't speak for the board, but I think the board wants to make the right decision, not the now decision. So if it takes an additional month, if it takes an additional 2 months in order to make the right decision, they would rather do that. Keep in mind that a repair is 9 months and a replace is 18 months. So if it turns into 10 months or 11 months or 19 or 20 months, in my opinion, that's not much of a difference. I would rather make the right decision and to give Darrell the time, because, you know, it's not just going out there and walking around. David has to look at it from an architectural point of view. Tony, our safety individual, has to look at it from a safety point of view. Keith has to look at it. He may have to get additional estimates. Remember, when we rerouted that golf course and turned it into the current format, it took Keith a little while, because he had to reroute cart paths, we had to put down gravel and so forth. So we want to be able to make the right decision. So I would make the right decision, not the now decision.
And there is a financial impact of
Yeah,
that.
I was gonna say, we really, again,
At some sort.
it goes back again to the cart versus, in front of the horse. We can recommend that we're gonna build a new bridge for $600,000, and you're gonna come back, or the board's gonna come back and say, that's nice, guys, but we don't have $600,000. So it doesn't get done. So really, to me, the issue really becomes, you know, what do we have to work with if we're gonna make that decision? I mean, we can make our recommendation, but we still need to have the knowledge of how much money we're gonna have and where's it gonna come from.
Well, I would like you to make the decision based upon the merits of the situation. I can tell you point blank, without an assessment increase, the option of going 500,000, that's gonna be a really hard decision for the board to make. You know, we don't have a lot of money right now, and what we are focused in on, for 19, we cut out a tremendous number of capital projects, and the projects that we kept were a lot of safety oriented. For example, we kept in the budget the crossing at Jack Crabtree at Dogwood, because that was a safety issue. I hope everybody will agree that was the right decision to keep that in, but there was a lot of projects that we had to axe. Without an assessment increase, our budget is very limited, so we'll be focused on safety issues. But going back, I would like the committee to make the decision based upon the merits of the challenge, and put forth that recommendation to the board, and then the ball's in their court. Yeah, okay. You can say that.
And I would encourage, I've been around a while, most people know me, that bridge input at bvvpoa.com, the email that was sent out, you heard the numbers, we got 39 in. I know there's more golfers out there, there's more people, let's get some emails in. Not every idea is a bad idea, throw it at me, we'll have a look, just like the idea from Jason, let's go see if I can reroute it, see what we can do. We've moved all the groups off of Berksdale, we're coming into winter, so let's make a smart decision, not a rush decision. Let's make sure we're on there, but encourage your fellow golfers, the golf groups, get on that email, send some stuff in, ask questions, and go from there.
Mark, did you have something to say? No? Okay. Do we need to make a vote to postpone? We don't do it. Do we need to vote? No. Just table it. Yeah. Okay. All right, so we'll continue our conversations and information gathering for that topic. Thanks, everybody, for coming again and everybody's comments. We appreciate it. We really do.
So,
Daryl?
I'm sorry, so
Go ahead.
would the plan be to bring this up again at the next meeting? Is that
Yeah,
kind
that
of the
will be
next
the
step?
plan, yeah.
Okay.
And hopefully we'll have more information from the others.
So the directive given to Daryl is to investigate keeping a 9-hole golf course or
Make it
some
6.
variation of that, maybe a 6-hole golf course. And the cost that it would how much it would cost to do that, safety implications, and bring it back to the committee at next month's meeting.
Yep, perfect. Jerry, board liaisons, Jerry, sorry, hold on. Yes, ma'am. One more real quick.
That email that you're talking about, is that, what's that gonna make a difference if people send an email and say, yes, I want it, or no, I don't? Is that what the email you're talking about is?
Well, it's more for input, just like we had this evening, or this afternoon. Just, what are your thoughts? What are your ideas? Do you have is there any additional ideas? It just helps us make a more educated decision.
So I can answer that. Just like on the Brittany deal, we got a lot of emails that came in on that, and I mean, we got a bunch in. Some of the ideas are great. Just getting the response from the community is what we're asking for. We had a great turnout tonight, and the committee members are all in golf groups and they're active in the community. I appreciate that, but there's a lot of people that couldn't make tonight. So let's hear some input and let's not rush this decision is what I'm saying.
Thank you. Board liaisons? Abraham, Jerry?
All I'd like to say is that I've listened to both sides, and it seems like it's being very fairly approached. And there's really no hurry right now that I see, so we have to jump on this in the next even 6 months. But surely things might change. And once we get our final findings on Trafalgar Road fire, with other stump dumps, as well as assessment increase potential. So there's a lot of pluses out there. My idea when we moved here was for the golf courses and the lakes. And that was our vision, and that's a lot of the people's visions out here. And any way that you can keep what you can physically afford or monetarily afford, I think we need to do it.
Thank you. Thanks, Jerry.
Can we get those boys back to put the fire out, come in and build a bridge?
That's the type of stuff that you would send into the input email address. See? That's thinking. Well put. Okay, Daryl, go ahead. You had one more.
I got one more thing that the board needs to be aware of. About 3 months ago, I came saying we got some abusers out there of our flag policy, our handicap flag policy out there. We've all seen them. Just want to let everybody know we have addressed some of our violators. It's continuously doing it. They remember 1 week, they forget the next time they play. It is what it is. But Kelly, one of my new hires, great lady, she took Chrissy's position, came up with this little reminder. So every time we hand out a flag, it says on here, handicap handicap flag test program. It's a test program for summer. Those are the people over the age of 80, and this program is working, folks. I'm telling you, it's working. We're seeing more players out there, which is great. But people tend to forget, 30 feet equals 10 yards from the tee box and green. I stopped a gentleman the other day, I won't say who he is, and I said, you are closer than 10 yards. He goes, not to the pin. I said, it's from the green and the tee box, all right? And it also says on their par threes, some are handicap permissible, some are not, and it says, help us make this program successful. So we're handing these out to the guys that are using them, ladies that are using them. It's a great program. It's a test program. It's please help us. We don't have the staff to monitor it all day. We can't get out there and do it. So in your groups, again, I'm begging, please address them when they get up there, and it's hard.
We do that,
Yeah.
as you know, but it has to be enforced at some point. I saw 10 violations with one individual again today. You know who I'm talking about.
We've addressed a number of them. Was
that
that Gavin?
It's Gavin.
That's all I got.
Eventually, you're gonna
Thanks,
have
Joe.
to take away their privilege.
You need to do
Unfortunately.
They've gotta be
something.
maybe given one warning, and then they're gonna have to lose it, because they keep doing it.
I'm gonna make a joke. I'm gonna wait for Doug to get back. Doug's on vacation first, but I made a joke of going out there and saying, you've been served, and then putting something down.
You've got to-
We'll go from
You've
there.
got to enforce it, at least set an example.
Set
that-
an example. I mean,
Because there are so many people that really do need it, and really, I've talked to a number of people that said they will not come out and play in the winter if they can't have that privilege, and they live for golf. I mean, Dick Shabandi, who broke his hip in Paris, his back, and he was out a year. He wrote to me last week, and he's just so excited about it, and when he was told it probably was gonna end by October, he says, this golf is what I do. And I can't play in the winter if I can't have that opportunity.
We definitely want to keep it going. We definitely do. All right, last thing is our next meeting is September 11th here at the boardroom at 4 o'clock. Anything else from anybody? Meeting adjourned. Gerald, can we send